Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
Well, I'll tell you, today we are talking to the CEO and the founder of an Annapolis-born tech business, which is somewhat unusual, but it's now celebrating 25 years of success, which is even more unusual for any business. And I want to thank Randy Boldyga, founded RXNT way back in 1999, for joining us on the phone today. How are you?
Doing well, thank you, John.
Well, first off, congratulations on 25 years. And as I said, I mean, it's, you hear that 5-year magical number for any kind of a business to be able to get in, to be existing. But 25 years is something, and certainly in the sort of tech world, and you're sort of a niche little tech world, I guess, that has really thrived and found a niche, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's interesting how we got into this industry, but we've just managed to flourish over the years. But appreciate that.
Well, what is it that RXNT does? You guys are medical record software. Is that real basic?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, for ambulatory physicians groups nationally, we provide both their clinical software, which is the electronic medical record part of it, which also includes scheduling and electronic prescribing. But then also on the billing side, we provide the practice management solution, which is basically the billings and the scheduling.
So your software is pretty essentially deployed in medical practices, hospitals, and type. Is that your customer, your core customer?
Yeah, it's ambulatory. Basically means it's your medical practices that are outside of the hospital proper, and urgent care centers, hospice facilities, anybody who stands outside of the acute hospital setting.
I guess my question is, and I mean, medical technology is really advanced. I mean, with the online, I can go onto my portal for my doctor and see what my last blood counts were and all that kind of stuff. Do you find that has cross-compatibility been a real challenge for your industry to be able to do that? Like that the hospital puts my information in and my doctor can't read it and type things, or have we moved beyond that?
Well, there are actually some national standards that have been put in place in recent years. And so, but, there is a phased in approach to those standards that all of the players in the industry are adopting. And so I think you're going to see some vendors have obviously adopted those standards and are moving much faster pace than others. But as a general statement, I think we are certainly in a much better place today than we were just a couple years ago. And I think you'll see over the next few years, 2 or 3 years, that the ability to share data with hospitals and there be that information available to every vendor in a very standardized method is going to be prevalent, if not required.
It's such a relief. I mean, because I know it's a hassle when you change doctors or you move and, okay, so what's your medical history? And you've got to go over that whole thing and everything else. To be able to hand that off to somebody would be absolutely fantastic. If they've got the same protocols and certainly if they've got the same software that RXNT does develop.
Absolutely. And that's why on a national level, the federal government stepped in and said, let's create a standard. Let's give people time to meet this standard. And let's make sure that they each year are making steps by certification processes to getting to this ultimate goal of being able to share data across disparate systems. And it's been a complicated process, but we're all getting there.
The software that you guys provide, is this more of a larger medical practice or a medical group, or is this something more geared toward, or both, to like an individual physician? Okay, my doctor is not associated with any medical group. I mean, he's not owned by, Blue Cross Blue Shield or anything like that. He's just out on his own. I mean, is this something for the solo practitioner as well as the group people?
It is. Yeah. So we have physician groups of one, and when we have physician groups of hundreds or many hundred, and it's everybody in between. That's one of the challenges we run into, actually, John, is what works for a single doc physician group is much different challenge than for a large multi-specialty group of several hundred providers. So you got to make that system work for everybody.
Well, that's fantastic that it's scalable there. And I don't want to get into the weeds. I did look at your website, which is RXNT.com, and the pricing, and I'm not a doctor. I don't even play one on TV, but I look at the pricing, and I mean, it doesn't, on the surface, it would sound like, oh my gosh, this is probably a huge expense, but it's not. It looks like it would be a very affordable. I mean, I'm looking at my own little business. I said, if I was doing doctoring, I could afford that. So, I mean, it seems like it's something that anybody can access if you're in the medical profession.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. We've done a really good job of keeping the costs affordable for the smaller physician groups, and we like to think that even for the larger groups, they appreciate the value we're bringing for the price. So yeah, we've worked hard to keep that price affordable for all physicians.
Well, I'm sure it's much appreciated. I mean, as every price goes up everywhere we look, and I mean, I've heard horror stories about malpractice insurance and everything else that goes in with being, as well as medical debt or educational debt for doctors. It's obviously much appreciated. But how did RXNT begin 25 years ago, back in '99?
Yeah, so I started RXNT as an electronic prescribing company. And the whole idea was, let's get doctors in the clinical environment using something that's going to, that had the most bang for its buck and the most beneficial to them and their patients. And we recognized that electronic prescribing was kind of that first step to adoption of a full medical record, because there was just a lot of value for a doctor. There's a lot of back in early 2000s, it was a difficult process for a doctor. He was writing prescriptions on a prescription pad, and there was no med history on a patient. Sending the script to the pharmacy required handing it to the patient going to the pharmacy having to wait at the pharmacy while they're not in the feeling at their top best, and so there were all these efficiency. The illegible handwriting was an issue. There was obviously no pricing available to the provider, so they had no idea whether this medication was on formulary, off formulary. So all these things we were able to provide within a product. So at the point of care, the physician was able to immediately know your med history, there's drug and allergy interactions, and understand the best priced product for that patient, and send it to the patient's pharmacy of choice. So all these things, compelled doctors to pick up a product like ours and use it without any qualms, because it was providing them with value.
Well, again, it's pretty critical, because I mean, we see new drugs being developed daily for everything. I mean, a year and a half ago, Ozempic wasn't out there. And
sure,
you certainly the COVID vaccinations and everything else, but to be able to have a centralized way of knowing what is reacting, and people are getting more and more. I mean, we're able to diagnose more and more issues with people. So I mean, it's a lot more complex than when I had pink eye and they prescribed me, said here, put these drops in, or when I had a cold, they said, okay, take Tylenol with whatever it is. So it's really become a very complex issue. But how did it begin for you? I mean, were you ever in the medical industry? I mean, was that what you were looking at? Or were you in the tech industry?
I was in both, actually. So I worked at a medical center, UAMS Medical Center down in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I oversaw the hospital's IT systems there. And so I got firsthand experience with seeing the inefficiencies within the medical field. But I also obviously was a IT guy by trade. So I had been in the IT industry for 20 years before I even, or 15 years before I even started RXNT. So had a lot of, strong background in IT and understood cloud-based technology before cloud-based was even a term we all used. So, yeah.
Flashbacks to Chris McCleary and USI.
Exactly.
Back when that was out, people were like, "What's this whole cloud thing going on?" Now it's just ubiquitous and it's just there. It's
exactly.
You mentioned efficiencies a couple different times, and I realized that. I mean, one thing I like about my doctor is that he spends time with you and everything else. But doctors are really pushed for time. And I remember a story of my former dentist who's retired now had said that at one point I asked where the whole sip and spits were at the dental chair, where you got the little cup and you rinsed out and you spit it into the little sink. And he said that the insurance companies were pretty much driving that they were cutting the prices that they're going to be paying the dentists, and you needed to get more patients in. And it was the efficiencies to do that. And so I've got to think that as you're able to, really make the prescribing and the medical records efficient, I mean, you're picking up so much benefit to a practice, to a medical practice.
Yeah, absolutely. There's, we're creating all kinds of efficiencies. We've been doing that for years, but I think where we're really going in the next couple of years is exciting to me because it's really, we're going to be able to leverage AI and even make it more efficient, which, it's been kind of a struggle. I mean, it's nice that they can use voice to text, voice recognition within the software, so they just speak and it writes everything out for them. But the efficiencies I think we're going to see here in the next year or two, maybe 3, are just going to be wow factors in my opinion.
I am so excited for AI in any number of different ways, and I mean I realize that it's the double-edged sword to a degree, but the potential is unbelievable when you sit there and you really sort of think it through. And as I'm thinking about what it could possibly do in the medical industry, I know my dentist now uses AI where it like scans whatever it is that he scanned in my mouth and says, "Oh, it's picking up this little thing here, and we need to keep an eye on this." That he looks in and figures out, "Oh yeah, we can let that go or not."
Yeah.
You got a bright future ahead. Do you have any regrets over the last 25 years of ever starting RXNT?
No regrets. It's been a lot of fun. Obviously early on there were a lot of challenges with getting the company. Bootstrapping is always a tough thing. There's a lot of reason why a lot of companies don't make it, and but I like to think now I've learned that you just hire really good people and surround yourself with a lot of really people that are smarter than you, and it's gotten a lot easier. So.
I'm a firm believer in that, and that goes with politics too. I mean, you turn around, you get the brilliant people that work with you, and if you can just drive the train, you'll go far.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in that as well.
But curious, okay, RX for prescription, which is your history, NT, Network Technologies?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So we actually took that idea from, I don't know if I was a Microsoft guy back in the day. I just knew Microsoft's products inside and out. And I don't know if you know this, but Microsoft has a product called NT, and that stands for new technology. And so I kind of thought, that's a great idea. The company is networking technology. Let's take the NT from that and do the same sort of thing.
That works. Now, where did you start? Did you start at that little house on West Street?
We actually started up in my home in Anne Arundel County there. I was living in a home and that I was renting, and we literally it was a 3-story home, and we took the first story, which was half below ground and half above ground. So we had some windows in there, but we started the business right in my home. And I probably did that for 2 or 3 years, just trying to bootstrap this thing and get it off the ground. And as soon as we generated enough revenue, we could move into a building. We bought the first building there on West Street, 1106 West.
Okay, that's right there. Sort of across in the car dealerships area, and where the Toyota
right beside Pinky's.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, you're starting up a tech company. Why not locate right next to a liquor store, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
then we bought the building 2 over from that. So we had some employees, like a few years later, we had some employees in 1110 West Street. So and people were walking back and forth between the 2 buildings. So that was how we evolved. And we eventually bought the building out on Whitehall Road, 1449 Whitehall.
And that's where you are now, right?
That's correct.
How large is RXNT right now as far as employees go?
Yeah, we have 125 full-time employees, and then we probably have another 25 contracted employees. Not really employees, but contracted individuals around the world.
Wow. What's kind of amazing is that it's born in Annapolis, and we're not known as this hub for software. I mean, I know we've got a little bit of little streams of it in Northern Virginia and stuff like that, but the talent probably, I'm guessing, out is in Silicon Valley and stuff like that. Why did you stay here?
Yeah, you know what we found was that Annapolis was an attractive place that as we sought the top talent, they had absolutely no problems moving to Annapolis. They really liked the town and the cultural benefits of Washington, D.C. and Baltimore are just a short drive away. The beaches of Maryland were obviously an attraction. So, we had no problem attracting folks out of Silicon Valley and up in Seattle, Washington, and areas that are known for being big tech hubs, because these folks were eager to get out of those areas in some regards.
Interesting. It's funny. I was talking with a gentleman that used to be an executive with, I think it was called General Magic, which was sort of the precursor to the iPhone and all that stuff. And Apple sort of bought him and spun him and killed him and everything else. But he was working with a tech company in Northern Virginia now, and he was talking to somebody coming from Google. And he said he was turned down. They walked away because of their espresso machine. It wasn't up to snuff with the candidate.
That's funny.
And I'm like, that's what you get, Google, for having napping pods and everything else.
Right.
But, you are born and raised here in Anne Arundel County, and I think it's amazing that you've built your business. 125 employees right here in Anne Arundel County, and going strong for 25 and looking ahead to the next 25, which is just going to be just a whirlwind of development, I would imagine. But
sure,
you guys have been a real rock star when it comes to supporting the community. And it's not just about running the business and the software and getting the subscriptions and getting into the medical practices, but you guys have been huge supporters of Anne Arundel Medical Center, now Luminous, but the Bosom Buddy charities, the Lighthouse. When COVID came around, you guys were on the front lines of getting support for people to get through this. I know that you and your wife were the movers and the shakers behind Denims and Diamonds, which was a wonderful fundraiser for Anne Arundel Medical Center that raised, probably over the years that it was going on, millions of dollars for mostly mental health was the focus of the ones that I recall. But you're everywhere.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, I honestly, my wife spends a significant part of her day doing that on many levels. As you mentioned, Bosom Buddies, she is the president of that organization. Obviously, she and I were the founding chairs of Denim and Diamonds, but she was obviously the driving force for a lot of that. And so,
but it wasn't your tablecloth choice that you picked out for the Denims and Diamonds?
Exactly. It was all her, but I was certainly standing there cheering her on. And but I'm proud to to say she's my wife, and that we were, so actively involved in it, because it makes me feel good to know that we're doing those kind of things in the community.
Well, it does really speak well for you personally, as well as RXNT, in that you're not just here doing business in the community, and you are part of the community. Obviously, you're a slice of it. I mean, I'm not personally going to run into RXNT and subscribe because I have no need for that. But I mean, you guys realize what the community has given to you, and you're constantly looking for different ways to give back, and that's certainly laudable. And it's something that everybody looks for in a business to support here, anywhere. But so thank you for that.
Absolutely.
But,
no, we appreciate you mentioning it, John. And like I said, I grew up there. I certainly want to see the community thrive, and we try to do what we can to help those in the community that may not be as fortunate as us.
Hey, Randy, do you have any idea what you'd be doing if you didn't get that tech bug?
Wow. I really don't know. I know I am not the kind of guy who's just going to sit down and on the beach and or play golf all day. I'm just, I've, since I was a kid, always into everything and trying to, just, if nothing else, I was a curious person, always trying to figure things out, and broke a lot of stuff when I was a kid got electrocuted a few times trying to figure things out. But yeah, I'm sure I'd be doing something, getting myself into some kind of trouble. But yeah.
Well, that's wild. I always wonder where people would have ended up if their life took a different turn somewhere along the ways there. But I'm glad that yours didn't, and I'm glad that RXNT is here and doing just wonderful things for the community, and also for all the medical practices that we have across the world, actually, that are benefiting from the software there. Is there anything that would surprise us to know about RXNT?
Wow, what would surprise? Well, our product is used by the U.S. State Department. That's something that most people don't know. It's actually in the hands of doctors that are supporting the foreign services folks all around the world. So literally prescriptions are generated by doctors around the world every day, and they're sent electronically into the U.S. government's prescription dispensing system, which is managed by I believe, the Department of Defense.
Yeah, that is pretty wild. So, I mean, your software is actually literally deployed all over the world.
Yes, I think it's in somewhere around 300 countries around the world, and and we've been doing that for about 13 or 14 years now.
You got to be proud, man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. It's kind of interesting when you see, all the different folks that are registered with us, the countries they're in. You're like, wow, I guess that's a country.
Okay. And Randy's up in his office there looking at a map, and there's one little area that's not colored in. He wants to know why.
Exactly.
What country is that, and why aren't we there?
Right, exactly.
Well, congratulations again on 25 years. For those in the medical industry that are interested in this, RXNT.com. And for anybody that's interested, just RXNT to check out the software. Again, as I mentioned, I mean, to me, it appears that this is a very affordable, no-brainer way to create some efficiencies within any kind of a practice. I mean, I look back on the old days when the glued prescription pad, and the issue was worried about people breaking into the doctor's office to steal their prescription pads.
Yeah.
And this is just a way to, and actually it's making all the patients safer as well, because you've got, clear writing, who prescribed it, when they prescribed it, what they did, how it interacts with everything else that's going on with you, which is unique from me, from everybody else. So, again, congratulations. And I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, John. Appreciate you asking all the tough questions, and it was a pleasure meeting you virtually today.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.